Good evening, friends. There was a slight glitch in the beginning, and this is a new Facebook page of Sirf News that you know. And when I just tried to start the program, I was told that there is some issue with my account, which I just fixed. So I'm back with you, and some of you must have read, I think more than 60 people have liked that post where I've said that Sirf News is diversifying from text journalism to video and podcasts. Now, let me first explain how this idea came about and why we felt a necessity, the need to make this shift. As you know, most of you must be knowing that this media house was established in 2014. On the day of Makar Sankranti, to be precise, 14th January 2014. However, I had been busy in different jobs, and then honestly I was not investing any time in this while the website was in place, and we also tried to look for some investments which we did not get, and that is very important. But nevertheless, money or no money, work cannot stop. That is my principle, and so here I am. At the same time, it is important to note that while I can be with you on a very small scale without money, if you want me to serve you better, I will be needing investments and not donations. Of course, I thank with the depth of my heart all those who have been donating to Sirf News all these years, and please keep donating to us. But nevertheless, we are, to compete with mainstream media, we need to increase, to enhance our scale, and for that we would need some businessmen to commit certain amounts for what we need to spend on human resource primarily. Then there are other costs such as a dedicated server to run the website with very heavy content, especially if we are going to do more of videos and podcasts, because they'll take up more space than text does. But not only that, as you would have seen at the bottom of our text stories, there is an appeal for donation where it says very clearly why we need that money. Because we may be doing 10 wonderful stories every day. That does not make us mainstream media. And until you are mainstream, you are not challenging other mainstream media, which you are not satisfied with. So for at least 10 years, people have been vociferously complaining about the anti-Hindu, anti-India content, about the socialist content, about the Islamist content in different websites, about the woke content now. So how do you compete with them? Other than giving the readers and subscribers different content, you also need to give them voluminous content. Now, for voluminous content, you need a lot of staff, because working on one story at a time, an individual sub-editor wouldn't be able to do more than 8 to 10 stories a day. And just to give you an idea as to how the mainstream media goes about it, the Times of India produces about 150 stories a day. One of the standard news agencies, PTI, Press Trust of India, supplies 550 stories a day to different news mediums. The figure of ANI is much higher than that. So to compete with them, we also need at least 100 stories a day, which means at least 10 people at the desk. Till the time we have that, we are reaching out to you on a very small scale, of course. And we felt this need also because in case, till the time that investments are not coming, now more and more social mediums like YouTube that you already know pay content makers. So if we are not getting enough from the subscribers to sustain a business, especially to pay salaries to our employees regularly, then let YouTube and Facebook pay us. Facebook, I hear, is going to catch up with this idea of paying content makers. So that will take care of the money for a while. The next thing is how or in what format this video outlet is going to reach to you. So as you can see that there are no frills, no caption, nothing, and you just see me on the screen. This is how I am starting, and I'm going to name two journalists whom I do not, whose ideology I do not share, but nevertheless they have been quite successful in this medium. One is Shekhar Gupta of the print, and the other is Shams Tahir Khan of Aaj Tak, who runs a program called Crime Tak. Now, let me begin with the second first. You will have noticed in Crime Tak, all the viewers of Crime Tak, it has got very good subscribers. And those videos don't have any frills at all. There is no editing. Just you see Shams Tahir Khan sitting there on a chair with some papers. He deals with one crime story at a time, and yet he has become very popular. So I have realized that all these, hiring video editors, making the video look very good, etc., are additions to what you do, but the main thing is your content, how rich your content is. So since that is the main thing, that is how we are starting. So initially, for quite a few months, you would just be seeing me, and I'll also, of course, take up your questions, your concerns, your points of view, and I'll share my views on those points. But this is how we have planned to start. Shekhar Gupta's program is called Cut the Clutter. And in Shekhar Gupta's program, you have some editing, you have a bit of caption, and but nothing much. The background does not change, it remains static. He might be in his office or at home, and he does not use a green screen on which you can, make alterations. And yet, he has been doing quite well. Now, mind you, let me repeat, I do not share his ideology. I'm talking about the efficacy of his medium of communication. He has been able to communicate. So that is how we are starting. I see already Rajiv Sethi and Shamik Moitra watching this live thing. And you may also start commenting. We have, I'll be able to see on the screen your comments, your questions, and I'll respond accordingly. Okay, now once again repeating that this will also take care of our monetary concerns, because once we cross a threshold of popularity, YouTube and Facebook are going to start paying us. I'm already getting a little bit of, some money from YouTube, very negligible. That's because I have hardly concentrated on that medium. But now that I'll do, and followers really grow very fast in that medium. So I expect to gain more and more viewers and subscribers very fast, and then start earning also, because finally, frankly put, I have to run a family too, and that is very important. I do not have any other source of income, and I have decided, rather resolved, not to ever work on salary anywhere anymore. There are a lot of problems, lots of issues with media houses these days, And it is not just your ideology that you cannot further while working as a salaried employee. There are also lots of instances of dirty politics, defamation, trying to attribute to you things that you did not do, that you would never do, etc. There is always an effort to corner you or create an atmosphere that you get fed up and leave the company. So there are such bitter experiences in different media houses that I do not want to get into on this show. Nevertheless, it's not a very peaceful, not a very pleasant experience, mostly in most media houses, especially if you are marked for your ideology. Now, directly they would not attack you for your ideology, but they would know that you are a genuinely ideological person, and whether it is pro-Hindutva, whether it is free market, these are the things I did not choose because they sell or they they are in demand, or because somebody is paying me well for that. These are also my natural instincts. I speak for Hindus because I feel for them. I feel for my community. I speak for individual liberty because that is what I believe in. I did not occupy this space with market in my mind. Nevertheless, when I go to work somewhere, I find people, the so-called right-wing mediums, where people have switched over from the left to the right, and when they find somebody like me, an authentic right-winger, so to speak, they are not very comfortable and they believe I am a threat to their job security, which is why they would try to take recourse to all kinds of foul means to see me out of that office. So that way it is not a very pleasant experience, which was why I decided in 2019. And mind you, before that, I have had a very long stint at the so-called right-wing journalism. Though I had begun with Statesman, which was neutral, I soon moved to the Pioneer. It was run by the late Chandan Mitra, and as you know that he was an MP of the BJP twice, and that paper obviously had a pro-BJP tilt, and expectedly so. My experience has not been very good there, though I stuck around for about 3 years. I wouldn't get into the details of what I went through in the subsequent jobs, and I'll not even name them. But in short, the experience was not very pleasant. Nevertheless, let me not lengthen this sob story. Suffice to say that I will continue with my efforts at independent journalism of my own volition, and I'll reach out to you. We have Sirf News as of now. In December, early December, another person that you have seen sharing screen with me, Shrikant Pandey, his medium is the Hindi language, and we came together and also floated a private limited company. I'll not divulge the name as of now, but we are planning to do something new with that medium, something extraordinary, something that no other media house is offering. We are still brainstorming over that. कुछ लोग हिंदी के भी दर्शक जुड़े हैं, तो आप से मैं हिंदी में भी वार्तालाप कर सकता हूं. आप हिंदी में भी अपनी टिप्पणियां और अपने प्रश्न आप पूछ सकते हैं. आप जो भी प्रश्न पूछेंगे मेरे स्क्रीन पर आ जाएगा. अगर लाइव आप कोई कमेंट करते हैं, कोई प्रश्न पूछते हैं, तो मैं उसका उत्तर देने की कोशिश करूंगा. Anyway, so as I said that I would start as I have started in the simplest way possible. I have just switched on my camera phone and it is fixed on a tripod, and you see a curtain behind me. That's just the minimum requirement. Now there are certain things that I would like to do using this medium of Facebook live sessions as well as YouTube live. This particular video is not going on YouTube because I thought that for a very long time I had not gone live on Facebook, so let me explore this medium once again. In this medium there is also an advantage that even though Facebook has shadow banned me time and again, I still reach a lot more people via Facebook than via other mediums as of now. I think that hardly within a month or so on YouTube I will be far more popular. Modesty be damned. Well, as of now, so this was about how I would present myself, how I would present the content. Now what I would present, that is what I'm coming to next. So it will mostly be news of the day, but it may not be an everyday affair. So it could be so that, earlier when I went live on Facebook, I would very often pick about 5 odd stories and first of all read it out to you. After reading them out, I would invite questions based on those stories. And now we have decided, last evening we had a meeting and we decided, the editorial board of Sirf News decided that we will pick and choose. It may not be a daily affair, but as and when we have something very substantive to say, we'll say it, and gradually we will try to be as regular as 5 days a week, if not 24/7. Now in this, of course, there are different things that would come up. Especially we have seen over the past 10 years that this has been an era of activism. In the era of activism, almost every time the activists decide what issue we would be discussing, and most of them are violent activists. It's the activists who said that the Supreme Court verdict on Shabarimala was wrong. They poured out into the streets in such large numbers in Kerala that even that verdict could not be implemented by Kerala government, which is a communist government. Then we saw the protest against CAA. So the Citizenship Amendment Act, I was a vehement supporter, and I continue to support, and I've regret the fact that the government has not notified it yet. But I have been a supporter, and I have watched quite helplessly the way the government was not being strong enough to quell these protests on unfounded fears. And then, of course, this very recent Nupur Sharma affair, where what she said is verifiable from books of history, from hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, and yet, how can a very important aspect, a very important part or pillar of Islam, that is the hadith, be anti-Islam? So if Sahih al-Bukhari recounts what, Muhammad's, speech was or his acts were, then that is not anti-Islam, but somebody else saying it becomes anti-Islam. And so we saw ruckus, we saw violence, we saw destruction of public property, national property, followed by this Agnipath. In Agnipath, again, there is a lot of misunderstanding about what the recruitment scheme is. I have recently been on a video with Sandeep Deo where you have, where in Hindi I have explained the benefits, and people from Bihar should be the last to complain about that, because it is in such a pathetic economic state that this is a boon this recruitment scheme that has come forth is a boon. Of course, before this, we also had this farmer agitation, which went on for about a year, and we kept supporting the law only to find finally that Mr. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, made a fool of us. So by withdrawing the very good and essential and necessary laws. Anyway, so very often our topic will be decided by activism, what the activists are protesting about in the streets, and this has become such a trend, though quite unfortunate, that people turn activists and they then turn violent on the basis of unfounded fear, misinformation, etc. So every time there is misinformation, there should be right information. So that is one place where I'll pitch in. I'll give you the right information about the issue, and then you may decide whether the activists are right or the government is right. Now, activists are the main opposition now, because the opposition is as good as defunct. They all speak in one voice. Of course, they latch on to activists once they see them gaining any kind of traction. If they find JNU students protesting, they throw their weight behind the JNU students. If they find Jamia Millia students protesting, then they throw their weight behind them. If they see Muslims protesting in Shaheen Bagh, they express solidarity with them. And even the system, not just politicians, the system, for example, some of the past government office bearers were delegated as representatives or interlocutors in the case of Shaheen Bagh, and even they sided with the activists. So that is unfortunate, and there should be a voice that exposes these people. I'll try my best to be that voice, one such voice. And now I am coming to another person. एक और व्यक्ति के बारे में मैं बता रहा हूं, जिनका मोटे तौर पे मैं विचारधारा का भी समर्थन करता हूं, और वो भी मेरी तरह पत्रकार हैं और बहुत बढ़िया वीडियो बनाते हैं. वो है अजीत भारती. अजीत भारती पहले ऑफ इंडिया हिंदी विभाग में थे, और उसके बाद वो डू पॉलिटिक्स जो उन्होंने अपना चैनल शुरू किया, बहुत बढ़िया काम कर रहे हैं वो. मेरा पूर्ण समर्थन है उनके प्रति. मोटे तौर पे मैंने इसलिए कहा क्योंकि इंडिविजुअल्स के बीच में कुछ तो वैचारिक मतभेद भी हो सकते हैं, लेकिन मोटे तौर पे मैं उनका समर्थन करता हूं, उनकी सराहना करता हूं वो जो काम कर रहे हैं. तो वो जिस प्रकार के वीडियोस बनाते हैं, मैं आशा करता हूं कि आज से 3 से 6 महीने के अंदर मैं भी उस प्रकार के वीडियोस बना पाऊंगा. और वहां पर भी जो कुछ मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आज देखिए 10-12 साल हो गए हैं ऑल्टरनेटिव मीडिया, वैकल्पिक मीडिया की तलाश में. मैं आज भी समझता हूं कि मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया कुछ बातें ऐसी करती हैं, हालांकि उनमें बहुत से दोष है, कुछ बातें ऐसी करती है, वो इतने ज्यादा प्रोफेशनली करते हैं कि उस प्रोफेशनलिज्म को आज तक हम पिछले 10-12 साल में मैच नहीं कर पाए हैं. उनमें से तो कुछ मीडिया हाउसेज में मैंने भी काम किया है, लेकिन वो प्रोफेशनलिज्म जो है वो मैं दक्षिण पंथ की पत्रकारिता में भी लाना चाहता हूं. और वो जब आप देखेंगे, और खासकर हिंदी पत्रकारिता में, मैं आपको एक ऐसा स्वाद देना चाहता हूं जो आपको मैं पक्का बता सकता हूं कि हिंदी पत्रकारिता में नहीं है वो, क्योंकि उसमें जो अंग्रेजी पत्रकारिता की संवेदनशीलता होती है वो मैं लेकर आऊंगा आपके सामने, लेकिन माध्यम जो भाषा होगी मेरी वो हिंदी होगी उन कार्यक्रमों में. तो ये मैं आपके सामने लाना चाहता हूं. इसके अलावा यदि आपकी कुछ सोच है इस विषय पर, एक तो मैंने कहा कि सबसे पहले मैंने ये कवर किया कि हम क्यों टेक्स्ट से वीडियो और पॉडकास्ट में शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं. उसके बाद किस प्रकार का वीडियो और किस प्रकार का पॉडकास्ट हम आपके सामने लाएंगे, ये मैंने बताया. यानी कि शुरुआती दौर में हम बहुत ही सिंपल, बहुत ही साधारण प्रकार के वीडियोस और पॉडकास्ट आपको लाएंगे, लेकिन उसका कंटेंट जो होगा, उसका जो मूल तत्व होगा वो काफी रिच होगा, वो आपको अच्छा लगेगा, वो आपको सोचने पर मजबूर करेगा। और इसके बाद उसमें मैंने कुछ उदाहरण दिए और मैंने आपको बताया कि जिस प्रकार से आज तक के शम्स ताहिर खान जो क्राइम रिपोर्टर हैं, वो क्राइम तक कार्यक्रम करते हैं, उसमें कोई भी उस अलग से कोई चमक दमक नहीं होती है। वो बस एक कुर्सी पर बैठे रहते हैं, सामने कुछ कागज होते हैं टेबल पर, और किसी एक क्राइम के केस पर वो स्टोरी सुनाते हैं। 1 घंटे का लगभग कार्यक्रम करते हैं, जिसमें 45 मिनट के बाद वो दर्शकों श्रोताओं से प्रश्न लेते हैं। और उसके बाद अगला स्तर जो है वो शेखर गुप्ता का है। मुझे पता है कि आपको शेखर गुप्ता कुछ खास पसंद नहीं है, लेकिन मैं यहां पर कुछ और बात कर रहा हूं कि शेखर गुप्ता के कार्यक्रम में जो प्रिंट पे वो जो कट द क्लटर नाम का जो कार्यक्रम करते हैं, उसमें कई बार मैंने देखा कि वो बोलते हुए हकलाते भी हैं, उसको भी एडिट आउट नहीं किया जाता है, वो भी रह जाता है, जैसे स्टैमरिंग हो, फंबलिंग हो, सब कुछ रह जाता है, लेकिन फिर भी लोग उसको देख रहे हैं और हजारों लाखों की संख्या में देख रहे हैं। तो इसलिए मुझे इसकी प्रतीक्षा नहीं करनी चाहिए कि कब तक मेरे पास कई ऐसे वीडियो एडिटर्स होंगे जो बहुत बढ़िया मल्टीमीडिया का काम करना जानते हैं, जो कि मैं अगर पीछे ग्रीन स्क्रीन लगा देता हूं तो उस पर वो बैकग्राउंड चेंज कर सकते हैं, कोई दूसरा वीडियो रन कर सकते हैं, कोई फोटो दिखा सकते हैं, मेरा कैप्शन चला सकते हैं, वो सब बात की बात है। और अंत में मैं जिस बढ़िया क्वालिटी के वीडियोस अजित भारती आपके सामने लाते हैं, तो मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि आज से 3 से 6 महीने के अंदर अंदर मैं उस स्तर तक पहुंच सकूं। उनकी तरह मैं लोकप्रिय बन पाऊंगा कि नहीं मुझे नहीं पता, लेकिन मेरी कोशिश अलग से होगी और आपको एक अलग स्वाद अवश्य मिलेगा। ओके, नाउ आई सी अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल वाचिंग नाउ, and anyway, this video can be played even after it is over, even after the live session is over. I'll just check whether, on the screen I cannot see any comment. So when I switch this on, okay, let me write it here, comment please. All right, please make some comments, because there is another thing I wanted to tell you. A lot of you, just glance through a post that we share on Sirf News Facebook page and in the group, and you pass by. That does not help, spread our message far and wide. According to the latest algorithm and artificial intelligence software that Facebook uses, it prioritizes comments over likes and views. So it reaches more and more people only when you begin commenting. Some of you who have shared a lot of Facebook posts would have noticed that hardly anybody has read those posts that you have shared or seen them. But the moment somebody comments under one of the posts, it catches the attention of more people in that person's network, and they also may come in and add their own comments. Okay, so please start commenting. I can only see my own comment, that is comment please right now. I do not see anything else on the screen. So if you have any questions on what I presented today, this was an introduction of course, then please react to that, what you think about it. You may also add to that, you may give me new ideas as to what I could be doing in these programs. And that's it. That's what I had to tell you on the first day. Tomorrow onwards I'll pick a topic, and let me prepare you for the topic to come. Unless there is something very drastic, very big happening tomorrow, I would like to pick up, I'd like to pick the story of the BJP nominee for president, Draupadi Murmu. And she comes from the scheduled tribes community. Our outgoing president will be, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, who represented the Dalit community. So the question I would like to ask, the answers to which I would like to explore, is this BJP's outreach program. So clearly it wants to send across a message that it stands with the so-called underprivileged or marginalized sections of society. And for that, it made that point very well by ensuring that Mr. Ramnath Kovind becomes the president. And I'm very sure that Mrs. Draupadi Murmu too will succeed finally, because that is how our system is made. No matter how many votes short the government or the ruling alliance falls, they always manage to ensure that their candidate wins. So Draupadi Murmu is going to be the next president of India. So this way, BJP will have ensured that it has, stood behind, it has upheld somebody from the scheduled tribes community. At the same time, we also see, and lots of Hindus see with some consternation, BJP's efforts also to reach out to Muslims. It's not working at all. But before I come to Muslims, I would like to speak about Dalits and Adivasis a bit more. And then I'll move on to the issue of reaching out to the religious minorities or so-called minorities or sizable minorities. So despite these outreach programs, and it is not just the tokenism of making somebody the president of India, it also involves representation in different ministries. You will notice that a very large, many BJP governments across the states and also the union government of Narendra Modi has got very good representation of scheduled castes and tribes in the Council of Ministers. And yet there is an impression, a general impression, that the BJP is a party of the upper castes. And this is why, there are a lot of parties that are wholly caste-based, and they are doing, formidable politics, because no matter whether they lose or win, they always register their presence. Let's take, for example, Bahujan Samaj Party in Uttar Pradesh. In the past 2 elections, it has not been that successful, but it has not been wiped out of people's minds. People still believe, or a large section at least, the Jatavs among the scheduled castes believe that Mayawati stands for them. Then we have a government in Jharkhand now, which is largely of the Adivasis. The party comprises largely the Adivasis, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, JMM, and their chief minister is Hemant Soren, again a representative of scheduled tribes. So if the BJP had been successful in creating this impression, then of course these parties would not have succeeded, but they still do. They still succeed, and at least at the state level, even if we talk about, for example, Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, the DMK today is, it comprises largely OBCs. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is an OBC himself. And the OBC outreach program, I hear, is quite successful in Uttar Pradesh, which is how the BJP managed 2 consecutive victories in 2017 and then in 2022. But overall, at the national level, we still find that, BJP is carrying some of its past baggages, where it used to be referred to as the Brahmin Baniya party. Though it is anything from that, especially under the leadership of Modi, it has not been skewed in favor of Brahmins and, Vaishya class, business class. Nevertheless, it has not been against them either. So what it has done remarkably, at times at the cost of its popularity, for example, not giving Dr. Harshvardhan the charge of Delhi cost the party very dearly, because the caste that Dr. Harshvardhan belongs to kind of nearly boycotted the BJP in the 2015 Delhi election. Even in the 2020 election, it hasn't done quite well. While traditionally in Delhi, BJP used to be successful because of Brahmin Baniya votes. Now, we saw that for a considerable period of time, Modi had put his trust on Brahmin leadership at the local level also. That did not work. Nevertheless, in Haryana, they made Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, who is not Jat. In Maharashtra, they made Devendra Fadnavis and Fadnavis is Brahmin. So you cannot call this government or this party anti-Brahmin either. So it is just challenging the set patterns. It made Raghubar Das the Chief Minister of Jharkhand, and he is not a tribal. So it does try to upset the caste equations in different states, and yet it is not gaining that impression of being all inclusive, especially standing in solidarity with these so-called marginalized or underprivileged classes. Now I come to the outreach program of trying to be good to Muslims. Despite the comments by Mohan Bhagwat, the Sarsang Chalak of RSS, and also the Prime Minister increasingly, since I think he began first of all praising the Sufi, without knowing or ignoring the fact that Chishti had come to India, followed closely by invaders, and the impression that Sufism is the Hinduized version of Islam, that is not true, because Chishti had clearly said that he had a dream while in Samarkand that he must go to India to proselytize. And that was his way, and that is the way that the Barelvi sect of Muslims picked here. Never mind. So that is how Modi started his outreach program, by praising the Sufis. Maybe there was some people, some leftists and some Muslims also, who were saying that he's trying to drive a wedge between Deobandis and Barelvis. But nothing came of it. Then again, we constantly see that the latest instance is this mentioning about a friend of his, which many people are saying is fictitious, this Abbas character. Never mind, it's not working at all. Very clearly, it's not working. Maybe the Dalit outreach, the OBC outreach, the scheduled tribes outreach is working, because otherwise the BJP at the national level wouldn't be getting more than 40% of vote share, which it has constantly got for 2 elections. It is said that the RSS Swayam Sevaks wouldn't number more than 20 to 25% of the population. So where are the rest of the votes coming from? They are obviously crossovers, other than BJP supporters who may not be RSS Swayam Sevaks. So let's say RSS Swayam Sevaks plus BJP supporters make it 30%. But Modi has been winning by about 45%, by claiming about 45% of vote share. So obviously Dalits are voting for the BJP, OBCs are voting for the BJP, and scheduled tribes also are voting for the BJP. It is somewhat working. That outreach program, especially the, as earlier I was talking about, this making policies or laws under pressure. One of the examples of that is overturning the Supreme Court judgment following a Bharat Bandh. The Supreme Court had said that the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act should have a supervising mechanism, which people from the Dalit community did not like. They called for a Bharat Bandh. It was somewhat violent, and immediately the Narendra Modi government overturned that judgment by saying no supervisions will be there. It will remain as it was originally designed. And by doing so, on the one hand, it lost the moral right to tell the Congress again and again that it had overturned the Supreme Court judgment in the Shah Bano case, because BJP has done something similar. So it has stained its record. On the other hand, it was successful in pacifying the Dalits. There were no more agitations then. But never mind, we often see that Dalit voices are rising against the BJP government. A very prominent case was Rohit Vemula in Andhra Pradesh, and therefore how well is this outreach program working? I can say clearly it's not working in the case of Muslims, and it will never work, because that is how the religion is designed. It's not the problem with individuals as such, it's a problem with that ideology. They have been, they have been taught to have a distinct identity across the world, and that in itself is a nationhood. Islam in itself is a nation, which is why any outreach will not work. What will work, however, and this is something I have heard from the BJP people, this is not a figment of my imagination. बीजेपी में कई लोग ये कहते हैं कि हम मुस्लिम आउटरीच का कार्यक्रम इसलिए करते हैं क्योंकि हमें हिंदुओं की चिंता है। हिंदू इतने सहज, इतने विशाल हृदय के होते हैं और कट्टरवादिता को बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं करते, और इस कारण क्या होता है कि जब जब हम कभी कट्टर से सुनाई पड़ते हैं तो हमें तो वैसे भी पता है कि मुसलमान हमें वोट नहीं देते, लेकिन हिंदू वोट देना बंद कर देते हैं हमें, हम अगर कट्टर से सुनाई दे तो। इसलिए हमें नरमी का बर्ताव करना पड़ता है और हमें अच्छी अच्छी बातें करनी पड़ती है। तो जो वोक हिंदू है, जो लेफ्टिस्ट हिंदू है, जो फेंस सिटर हिंदू है, उसका भी मन थोड़ा सा पसीज जाता है कि अच्छे लोग हैं, चलो यार ठीक ही काम कर रहे हैं, जो भी कर रहे हैं ठीक कर रहे हैं। तो हिंदुओं का ध्यान रखते हुए मुसलमानों का तुष्टीकरण होता है। ये भाजपा का है, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं। भाजपा के कई नेताओं ने हमें ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड कहा है, बल्कि एक बार तो ऑन द रिकॉर्ड लगभग बोल पड़े थे रविशंकर प्रसाद कि हमें पता है मुसलमान हमें वोट नहीं देते। खैर वो पूरी बात उन्होंने की नहीं थी, लेकिन ये सब बातें हैं। तो कल का मेरा जो कार्यक्रम रहेगा, वीडियो का कार्यक्रम रहेगा फेसबुक लाइव, और मैं यूट्यूब पर भी हूँगा, तो उसमें ये विषय होगा कि अलग अलग समुदायों तक पहुंचने की भाजपा की जो कोशिश है वो किस हद तक सफल हो रही है और किस हद तक सफल होगी। क्या उसे ये कार्यक्रम चलाया जाना चाहिए? जैसी छवि मोदी ने अलग बनाने की कोशिश की वाजपेयी के काल के बीजेपी से, उसमें वो कितने सफल हुए हैं? अगर सफल हुए हैं तो आज भी जो पेरोकियल बेसिस पर, यानी संकीर्ण मानसिकता के आधार पर जो पार्टियां चलती हैं, जिन पार्टियों का नामकरण भी संकीर्ण आधार पर हुआ है, वो भी सफल कैसे हो रहे हैं? अगर भाजपा दलितों को भी शामिल करती है, ओबीसी को शामिल करती है, शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब दोनों को शामिल करती है, तो फिर भी केवल कास्ट या ट्राइब के बेसिस पर, के आधार पर जो लोग राजनीति करते हैं वो भी कम से कम राज्य स्तर पर सक्सेसफुल कैसे हो रहे हैं? फिर तो सभी को वोट देना चाहिए भाजपा को, ऐसा नहीं हो रहा। इस पर हम कल चर्चा करेंगे। आप अपने प्रश्न, अपनी चिंताएं, अपनी टिप्पणियां तैयार रखिएगा, और कल मैं आशा करूंगा कि आप इस तरह से मूक दर्शक नहीं बन के रहिएगा। आप में से कईयों को मैं देख रहा हूं स्क्रीन के ऊपर, और कुछ जा भी चुके हैं। तो खैर, आप सभी से निवेदन है, विनम्र निवेदन है कि आप कृपया कमेंट अवश्य कीजिएगा, और ये मैं आप सभी की भलाई के लिए भी, आपकी अपनी अपनी लोकप्रियता के लिए भी कह रहा हूं कि जो फेसबुक का नया स्ट्रक्चर है उसमें लाइक का कोई इतना वैल्यू नहीं है जितना कमेंट का वैल्यू है। तो जब आप टिप्पणी करते हैं तो आप ये इंश्योर करते हैं कि वो पोस्ट जो है और भी लोग पढ़ेंगे। केवल लाइक करने से, और उससे भी बुरा है कि आप केवल देखे, पढ़े और गुजर गए, आपने स्क्रॉल डाउन कर दिया अपने मोबाइल पर, वो आपके उस मित्र के किसी काम का नहीं आता है। जब जब मैं कभी कहता हूं ना कि बहुत सारे लोग तो ऐसे हैं जो मेरे मित्र तो हैं, फेसबुक फ्रेंड है, लेकिन वो कभी हमारे साथ इंटरेक्ट करते ही नहीं है, कोई विचारों का आदान प्रदान करते ही नहीं है, तो मैं उनको हटा रहा हूं। जैसे ही मैं कहता हूं सर हम लोग तो पढ़ते हैं रेगुलर, आप जो भी लिखते, अरे भाई तुम्हारे पढ़ने से कोई फायदा नहीं हो रहा है हमको। पढ़ने के साथ साथ अपना प्रेजेंस जो है वो रजिस्टर करो, और यही बात लागू होती है फेसबुक पेज, फेसबुक ग्रुप पर भी। जैसे ही आप कमेंट करेंगे तुरंत वो पोस्ट जो है अधिक लोगों तक पहुंचेगा। जब तक आप कमेंट नहीं करते वो नहीं पहुंचेगा। इसी संदेश के साथ और इसी अपील के साथ मैं आज का कार्यक्रम समाप्त करता हूं। आशा है कि आप अधिक से अधिक संख्या में मेरे साथ जुड़ते रहेंगे। सो सी यू ऑल टुमारो एट 9। थैंक यू वेरी मच।